I love it. This is such a great group. All right. So hi everybody. Now it's 7:05. I feel like we've waited for the fashionable period of time. My name is Rabbi Sarah Paris. It's so nice to meet all of you and see some familiar faces that I have come to know and love over my time at Emanu-El. I'm one of the rabbis here, and it's my honor to welcome you tonight to our conversation with Dana Blum, who Nika is going to introduce. I wanted to kind of ground us a little bit in Judaism and in Torah, because this is Emanu-El, and that's my job as a rabbi. So this month, we are in the midst of a part of the book of Exodus where God relays the bulk of the commandments to the Israelites. This week's Parsha alone, which is Mishpatim, which literally means laws, contains 53 of the 613 mitzvot, 23 of them positive, 30 of them negative. And last week, we actually got the 10 commandments. And as you all know, one of the 10 commandments is to keep Shabbat. You can probably recite it with me, but the verse goes, "Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Shabbat unto God. In it you shall have complete rest and do no manner of work. For in 6 days God made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and made it holy." And rested on the seventh day, whereas God blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So this commandment is repeated many, many times in our prayer book and in our Torah and in rabbinic texts. Shabbat is a sacred pause that Jews have experienced since the beginning of time, connecting Jewish people around the world. And Shabbat is a chance to elevate our souls, fill our stomachs, help us meet new friends, and connect us with something that is greater than we are. So usually when we're talking about technology and Shabbat, we focus on unplugging. We have the concept of 24/6 from our congregant Tiffany Schlane's book. We have the National Day of Unplugging, where we're asked to turn off all of our technology March 5th through 6th. I'm sure we'll talk about it at Shabbat services. But tonight I actually want to invert the concept about Shabbat and technology and urge us to think about the ways in which technology, or screen time for our children, can actually enable parents to have some Shabbat time for themselves, and that to think of the tools that Dana is about to give us as a way to enhance your own Shabbat practice. So in this day and age of shelter in place and global pandemic, the realities of our lives have shifted profoundly, as you all know, especially those living with young children without the support systems and the physical and metaphorical village that usually surrounds us. Many of us have suddenly not only become parents and caretakers, but also full-time teachers, trying to balance your own jobs and your relationships. It's quite an impossible mix on parents and grandparents' plates these days. So I know that I'm preaching to the choir in this Zoom room, but all this is exhausting, and it is more important than ever for parents to carve out Shabbat for themselves. And screen time, in the ways that Dana is going to teach us about tonight, can be a tool to restore adult moments of sanity and solitude. The commandment of Shabbat has a second half to it. The Torah also, in addition to commanding us to observe Shabbat, the Torah repeats that those who don't observe Shabbat get cut off from the Jewish people. And the way that can be read in one way, but the way that I want to read it tonight is that I don't think this is a divine punishment. I think this is actually something that we self-impose on ourselves without making the space to have Shabbat and to have rest. The most enlivened parts of ourselves become duller. And it's not that we are cut off from the community, but without Shabbat, without taking the time to disconnect, we cut ourselves off from the community because we prevent our own ability to be fully connected, to be fully present with the people that we love and value and respect during the rest of our week. So if we don't take the time to rest and go seamlessly from working to parenting and no breaks or self-care in between, if we don't take the time to rest and we continue to push ourselves past our limit, we punish ourselves, we cut ourselves off, and we diminish our own inner light as individuals and as parents and grandparents. So as we transition to Dana tonight, I urge you all to listen and learn with and from Dana with an eye towards enabling your own self-care and your own Shabbat practice. It doesn't have to only mean Fridays and Saturdays, though that's really great, and I fully support Shabbat on the time that it is, but anytime that you need it, anytime that you as parents need it, because I believe that Shabbat can help us restore this sacred pause that enables us to be our best selves, and that can mean anything for you, and I'm really excited to learn from and with Dana about the tools she's going to give us tonight. So I'm going to pass it off to Nika, our wonderful Early Childhood Center Director, to introduce our presenter.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi Paris, so much for that beautiful dvar. Welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us this evening. I am Nika Greenberg, the Director of Early Education here at Emanu-El, and this Resiliency series was really created to address some of the emerging needs of our community in light of the COVID pandemic. Today's evening specifically came about kind of as a response to the many questions my team and I receive almost on a daily basis about sort of balancing parent and child needs when you have your children at home so much more than you ever have. As Rabbi Paris so beautifully framed it, you all need a Shabbat whenever you can make time for it. And really, we want to provide you with some resources about how to give your children those moments of screen time, which are often inevitable, in a way that feels responsible and feels supportive to their development. So we called in the experts to do that for you, and we today have Common Sense Media here, which is an incredible resource for entertainment and technology recommendations for families and schools. And I really look to this organization regularly to explore what is developmentally appropriate content, and certainly refer to them as a resource to our families. Today's speaker, Dana Blum, is here. She's the Senior Director of the Bay Area National Events at Common Sense Media, and she has a very special connection to Emanu-El, which I'm excited for her to share with you. And she has prepared a wonderful presentation, so I won't take up too much of your time here, and we'll just welcome her. And thank you so much for joining us. Hi, Dana.
Well, hello. Thank you, Nika and Rabbi Sarah. That was beautiful and so necessary right now, especially this past year. I think all parents need a break, a Shabbat, probably daily. I'm thinking. So I have my colleague here, Jacqueline Karambad, and Jacqueline is going to share the screen while I talk. So we'll just get right into this. And I want to be cognizant of your time. I also, because we have a small group, I want to make sure that if you have a question as I go along, there's a lot of information that I'll be sharing. I want you to feel just comfortable. You can go ahead and just, say, I have a question. Could I ask you? So feel free, you unmute yourself and just ask the question as we go along. But as Nika said, I am Dana Blum, the Senior Director of the Bay Area and Partnerships for Common Sense. But I'm also a member of Temple Emanu-El, and our children grew up here. And they went to preschool here, they went to Sunday school here, they went to Madrahim program. Our older daughter will get married here at some point. I don't know when that will be with COVID, but at some point. And so I'm so happy to be here tonight. And my goal for this conversation is that you leave with tangible tips on how to use media wisely for your family, and that you better understand the digital landscape that your kids are growing up in today. Okay, we can go to the next screen, and then Jacqueline, you can go to screen number 3. So this is kind of our objectives tonight, and you can take a look at them. But I wanted to briefly just tell you about Common Sense, that you understand our philosophy and where we're coming from and how we have this advice for you. So many of you know us, except for maybe some of the younger ones haven't used Common Sense yet, but you may know us as Common Sense Media, as Nika referred to. So Common Sense Media is actually our consumer or parent caregiver platform for ratings, reviews, and advice. And we rate over 40,000 different pieces of media. And we use a rubric that we developed for rating, and that rubric includes age appropriateness, educational value, positive role model representations, violence, sexual content, language, consumerism, drinking, drugs, smoking, gender equity, and very soon we will also have a lens of race and media relations in the review. So all of that is in a review. And later I'm going to take you on the site so you can see those yourself and know how to find the best content for your kids. So we look at all of these segments so that you, as a parent, can make an informed decision on the media your children consume based on your own family values. So we do not want to be prescriptive. We just want to give you all of the information and all of the teachings behind the media that you're watching. And we want to give you that so that you can make your own decision as a family that suits your own family values about what's appropriate for your child to watch. So that's Common Sense Media, and I will show you that later. But we also have an educational platform called Common Sense Education, where we serve over 1 million educators across the country who use our digital literacy curriculum. We're kind of the granddaddy of digital literacy. We came out with this about almost 10 years ago now, when honestly, people were not thinking about digital literacy in schools. Our curriculum is a K through 12 curriculum, and we are in over 70% of the schools across the United States. 60% of those schools are Title I schools, which means we serve some of the most vulnerable populations. On our education platform, we also rate the best digital tools for educators, the same way we rate the best media for parents. We also rate the best digital tools for educators so that they can build lesson plans around the best digital tools and don't have to go Google searching what they should be using. That's Common Sense Education. And then we also have another kind of piece of Common Sense, which is called Common Sense Kids Action. And we are the largest children's advocacy organization in the country. And informing all of this work, we also have a research platform. And later on, if we have time at the end, I'm going to share some of our YouTube research that we did for children, so that you can kind of understand what they're seeing on YouTube and what is happening on YouTube, but we'll see that at the end. But we do research. We come out with usually around 3 to 4 research reports each year, and we partner with institutions across the country because we have such a large platform and megaphone. We can partner with institutions on our research, whether that be Northwestern or Stanford or Harvard, and then we can really get out that research to a consumer, to a parent population that really needs to see it. So we do a lot of work. But importantly, behind all of this, we are a nonprofit. And everything that I've mentioned today on Common Sense is free. So we never have a gate or a fee for anything you're going to see today or any of our educational content. So let's first talk about what we mean when we say digital media. So children's digital media can now be characterized as an environment or space in which children interact with others via video chat. They learn new concepts via educational content, or they play and explore through games and browsers. So the relationship between children's digital media use and well-being is very complicated. And discussions about children and screen media have been dominated by such concepts as screen time, which have really lost relevancy as parents try to navigate an increasingly technical, mobile, and interactive digital world. So parents are no longer making decisions about which TV programs to let their children to watch, but instead, you have to consider a vast menu of apps and games and online videos and streaming video platforms and interactive virtual assistants and internet connected toys. So moreover, more new products and apps are being introduced so rapidly. And for example, when there was Pokemon Go, which was a while ago, it took 19 days for that game to reach 50 million users. So what is a parent supposed to do with all of this? And that's where I'm hoping I can help today. So we can go to the next screen. So I know a lot of you have little ones here. So I just want to give you kind of a landscape look at what is happening and how much digital media kids are consuming. So on average, children from birth, we know to age 8, use about 2.24 hours of screen media a day. And you can see how that's broken down. The little ones are using almost an hour, under 2 to 4. They're using around 2.5 hours. And then the 5 to 8 are using 3 hours. And most, Jacqueline, you can go to the next. Most of that that kids are consuming is online video. So that now dominates, where 3 years ago, you can see online video was the least amount of watched by that age group. And now, of course, it's growing, and it's going to grow even more. And then the next screen. So I just want to tell you what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. And when I give you this information, the first thing I want to say is that these are just recommendations, only recommendations. This is not about shaming a parent who has a young child on a screen. And I want everyone to remember that. So I'll just put this out there. What do you think the answer is? So babies younger than 18 months, how much do you think the American Academy of Pediatrics says that a child should watch? Anyone? You can put it in the chat. Excuse me. Okay, next slide. So it does recommend 0 hours a day for 0 to 18. But that does not include if they're talking to grandma, if they're talking to family, if they're using a screen to video chat, that is not included in this. Let's go to the next screen. And now for the 18 to 24-month-old group, they talk about this group, and Jacqueline, we can go to the next one just to go through that. We do recommend that that group watches 1 hour a day, and then 2 to 5. We can go to the next one. We recommend 1 hour per day. Oh, I'm sorry. When I said the second one, what was that? 8 to 18 months. That is 30 minutes a day. And then when you get to 2 to 5, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 1 hour per day. This is all just what they recommend. So when we use this in this context, I do want to say that not all screen time is created equal. And if you remember one thing today, that's probably the most important thing to remember, that not all screen time is related equal. And 1 hour per day or 2 hours per day of watching PBS is not the same as playing a video game. And certain video games are great. And others are not. And that's where common sense can really be helpful. Because if you're going to have your kids using digital or screen, you might as well have them using something that's educational and that has great content. And that's where I'm going to show you how you can find that and make it easy. In these younger age groups, we want you, parents and grandparents, to understand that it's always best to have screen time and do it with your kids, especially at these younger ages. So we know that screens can be incredibly helpful, but watching screens together as a parent and talking about what's being watched is how children will actually learn. So much more so than a child watching a screen alone, when you're with that child and you're doing it together, you're pointing, you're explaining, and just those babbling, the babbling that little kids do, if you're there to do it with them, they're going to get so much more out of that screen time than if they're just sitting there with the screen themselves. And as we all know, the littlest ones are able to swipe and go through things, but they're not really getting any educational value out of that. But if you're sitting there with them, it can be great. So that being said, we absolutely understand that in this day and age, especially this past year, there are times when you as a parent need to get work done and you need to give your child something to entertain them, and screens are super easy. So if you do need to give your child that screen, please remember that you can find something great that they can sit there and they can be absorbed in. And something like Daniel Tiger or certainly Sesame Street, these are all really great, high quality content that's not going to be doing your child any harm. We'll go to the next slide. So I know there was one person, I think, who had older kids, and I want to make sure that I answer your questions as well. A lot of this kind of applies to everyone, but some of these younger, the younger ages. Certainly, if you've got a child that's in 6th grade, you've got a whole nother bag of worms, and we can talk about that you're having to deal with. But good news is that your children are young, and you are able at this time to set habits that are going to live with them throughout their lives. So you're setting certain habits that become habitual. So in the old days, 10 years ago, when kids were just beginning to use technology in schools and they were using iPads, parents didn't think about keeping those iPads out of their bedrooms, right? So then it was much more difficult to go back and change habits. But today, we know that it's best not to have screens in kids' rooms, if that's possible, to keep them in a public space. And it's also important not to watch screens an hour before bedtime. So those are all things that we know. It's really easy to control that for younger kids, not so easy as they get older. But if you can start these habits really early, you're going to find that as they go into kindergarten and elementary school, your life will be much easier because you've already set the groundwork. All right, let's go to the next slide. And this is about, we're going to show you a little video about co-viewing and co-play and why that's so important.
Here are 5 reasons to consider co-viewing media and tech with your kids. Number 1, it stimulates curiosity and helps develop vocabulary. Pick a high-quality show and ask questions about what you're watching. For example, what colors do you see? If kids are older, ask why characters are fighting, or ask, what do you think will happen next? Number 2, it supports the development of social-emotional skills. For young kids, identifying and describing emotions can be really hard. Try using books, apps, and shows to help with this. Ask, do you think the puppy was mad? Did you feel sad or happy when the story ended? Number 3, co-viewing strengthens emotional bonds. When you spend time watching a show or reading with your kids, you're doing something they like. You're close to them and giving them your full attention, which is great for everyone. Number 4, it teaches character strengths. You can use the stories you're enjoying together to reinforce your family's values. Gratitude, humility, and teamwork are only some of the things kids can learn with the help of media. And number 5, it's safer. By not letting your kids watch YouTube or YouTube Kids unsupervised, you make screen time safer. Co-viewing lets you monitor and detect any issues quickly and intervene as needed. For more tips, visit us at commonsensemedia.org.
Okay, so as you see, co-viewing, you're going to get more vocabulary. Your child's going to definitely pick up more vocabulary. It's going to be a more enriching experience for them. They're going to make more connections, and it's going to be more fun, and you're going to know what they're doing. So for as long as you can, co-view and co-play, take advantage of it, because you won't be able to do it as they get older, but take advantage of it in these younger years. Next slide. And again, quality matters. What we talked about, not all screen time is created equal. And the AAP has said during this pandemic that screen time that counts towards school time is not counted in the hours that they're talking about. So remember that. Okay, next one. The 4 main areas of development in early childhood are building those social emotional skills. And part of the way that we can do that is kids have to learn how to self-modulate themselves. So instead of giving your child a phone, which I know and we know is really easy when you're at a restaurant and you're trying to get things done, we recommend that at these younger years, if you can think about packing crayons and paper and just those basic things instead of handing over the phone. If you can, we recommend waiting to hand over a device for as long as you can. So let's go on to the next slide. And so I wanted to show this other just really short, cute video that I think will help you around kind of development and what we hope you'll take away. So Jacqueline, let's show this very short, the video on the right, and then I'll get into a few more.
Your preschooler is walking, talking and asking lots and lots of questions. Your 2, 3, and 4-year-old is starting to recognize numbers and letters. Plus, they're learning how to share and play with others. They love using silly words, watching the same TV shows over and over and over again, and want you to check for monsters under the bed. Now is the time to read to them, a lot. And when it comes to media, seek out educational apps and find quality movies and TV shows that feature kind characters. As always, try to watch, play, and read together as much as you can. After all, your little ones learn best from you. For more tips and advice, visit us at commonsense.org.
Okay, so most of you are probably already reading to your kids once a day, but I just want to remind you that reading once a day to your kids is the best way that they're going to pick up the language, and it's also a time for you to connect with them. So playtime, we include now, instead of just read, play, talk, and write, is sing. Singing is really important, and we found that singing with your kids is a great way for them to find language fun. So, so if you are a singer, this is a great opportunity for you to sing with your kids. And then quiet time with no books and actually no devices, and just being able to sit and play with crayons or play with blocks, as you know, is really important in their own development and also for their sense of self-regulation. Next slide. So the AAP says some basic and important information for you to remember. Don't use technology as an emotional pacifier. And as I said, if crayons, pen and paper, and blocks are available, let's use those. Reach for them first. And of course, sleep. So sleep is not only imperative for preschoolers, but it's one of the most important predictors of mental well-being for elementary school kids and certainly high school kids. So I cannot emphasize how important sleep is, and there is no replacement for it. So keep those screens out of the bedroom. And if you can start this practice early, talk to any parent of a adolescent or a high schooler, and they will, I'm sure, also say the longer you can keep the screen out of the bedroom, the better it is for them, and the more sleep they're going to be able to have. This practice really can become habitual if you start it at a young age. But then, of course, there is modeling, which is very important. And so we'll get into that later. But what you do more than what you say is very, very important, and it's what your kids take in. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is what we call a family media agreement. And I'm going to send this out so that everyone can just look at it. It's really simple, but we recommend that as a family that you sit down and you make and fill this out with your kids. You can start it in preschool, and then every year it's going to change, and it's going to differ certainly from preschool to second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and of course on. But it's a simple and easy step. And importantly, this is an agreement with your child, not to your child. So it's something that you as a family put together of what you believe is important and reflects your family values of how much time and when you want to get off of technology. So you put this up and you develop it together. So you should be talking about it, getting input from your kids as they get older. And you put this somewhere that everyone can see it. And importantly, when you make a mistake, which inevitably you will, to talk about the mistake you made and share that with your kids so that they see, oh, it's okay if I make a mistake, I'm going to go back and try again. And we're not going to use technology after, certainly for younger ones, you can say it's 7 o'clock, or we're not going to take our phones to the dinner table. That's super easy, but you set these kind of family values and you put them up, and then your kids can refer to them when you break it. And it's there. And it also helps with play dates, right? Because then instead of you being the bad one, your child can just say, oh, these are the rules of our house, and they're there, and your child doesn't have to be the bad one. So it makes it really easy, these family media agreements. Next one. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. And I think here I'm going to go to our website, Jacqueline, if that would be okay with you. Let's see if we can do that. Great. Jacqueline, are you able to?
I sure can. 1 second.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so before we go to this one, Jacqueline. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's go here and then I'll share to show everyone the website. So if you can just scroll down a little bit. So this is what our website looks like. And right here is a great blog, especially I know, I think Julie was on here with older kids. So this is where we give you all the information and content. Keep scrolling down a little bit. So here's some information. So for the kid who says, oh, wait, go back up a little bit. There we go. Sorry. For the kid who says, I always pay attention during virtual school. So these are ways that your kids can actually shut everything else out. And we give you, these are, there's this rescue time. So we'll give you the age that each, that is appropriate. Also, on your own iOS device or your Android, you can also kind of control what your kids are looking at. But this is just what advice looks like on the site. I think actually, Jacqueline, the easiest thing would be for me to share my screen, if you don't mind. I think I'll share my screen and I am going to show everybody, 1 second. I'm going to show everybody what it looks like to go to Common Sense. 1 second. Okay. I think this will be helpful. For some reason, when I'm trying to share mine, it's not coming up. 1 second. Let me just see. Jacqueline, yours is coming up for some reason.
Oh.
I'll try again. No, it's no. For some reason, it's mine is not. I'm seeing your screen.
Oh, I think you might have clicked on a different Zoom window.
Let me see. Let's see. Is it coming up?
No.
No. Nope.
I just
Okay.
gave you permission. I mean, more permission. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's see. I think that Jacqueline, I'll go ahead and have you for some reason. For some reason, mine is not coming up. I'll have you do it, and I know that it's not. It has a little different. But go ahead and let's go to Common Sense. Thank you. Sorry about that.
It happens. It's Zoom. We get it.
Okay. So here's what the site looks like. And now I'm going to take you, let's go to, if you can, movies and TV. This is Common Sense Media. And now we're going to go to best streaming picks for kids. And let's go to look at best documentaries on Netflix. Okay. So when we pull up, this is a review. This one, as if you scroll down, this one happens to be what we call our Common Sense seal. It's Dance Dreams. I haven't seen it, but Jacqueline saw it. She said it was really good. But this, so this particular video, we say it's for age 8 and up. So you can see how we rate it. It has the Common Sense seal, which means that it fits all of our qualifications for a great family movie to watch together. We also have on the right what parents say. So parents actually say, it's 7+, that's fine. And they give it 5 stars. We gave it 4 stars, parents gave it 5 stars. And then we also have an area for kids and they can review it. And these kids said it's 7+ and they thought it was 5 stars. So as we'll scroll down a little bit, and I want to show you what a review looks like. Okay, so here we go. So here you can see the educational value, positive messages, positive role models, sexy stuff, and so on. So what's important to you? Maybe you want positive message or you want a positive role model and you don't care so much about the educational value of a movie that you're going to watch together. Whatever's important to you, we just give you all of the information. And you can see that we say it's got great positive messages. It's got great role models. It doesn't have a lot of bad language. It has no sexy stuff. It's really got very little violence. It has a little consumerism, but not a lot. And there's, of course, no drinking and no drugs in this. So that's how you can really read and go deeper into review. But the golden nugget, I always think about common sense reviews. Let's scroll down and you can see what parents need to know. We'll go into all of that detail. Keep going. What's the story about? We give you that information. Is it any good? But here's our nugget. Talk to your kids. Talk to your kids about. So this is great. So we have it on every one of our 40,000 reviews. And the great thing is about this is certainly as your kids are getting older, and they're playing a video game or they're reading a book or they're watching a movie and you haven't played that game, watched that movie or read that book. But you can look in here and this is the cheat sheet, right? These are the cliff notes. And we give you the questions that you can sit down and ask your kids. So at dinner, if you know your kid is playing a specific game and you really want to connect with them and have them talk to you, well, this is the cheat sheet. These are the questions in every review you can look at and you can have those conversations with your kids. So it's in every one of our reviews and you should take advantage of these. So anything in media, and that includes books, movies, games, platforms, apps, and I mean anything from TikTok to Instagram to the anonymous apps. We give a review of it and we tell you how to use it and what age it's appropriate for. All right. Are there any questions? I should go in the chat. Let me do that. Okay. I'm talking a lot. Okay, no other questions. All right, let's go back to the deck. Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay. So this is another platform that we have, which actually this is, I'm not even sure, Jacqueline, do you have this one up? So this is called Wide Open School. And I'll just tell you really quickly. Last March, when the COVID first came, we built a new platform called wideopenschool.org. And this was a separate platform at the time from Common Sense. And we built it for parents and educators to be able to have a source to go onto for learning. So we have 36 districts across the country who used Wide Open School for their schools. We have millions of parents who came on Wide Open School to use it over the summer and throughout the year. We've kept it up for the whole year. And what it is we connected with around 120 different nonprofits from across the country and actually from across the world. And we linked to the best content on that site so that parents could go, and if they were interested in having a virtual, if they wanted to take a virtual trip with their kids, they could do it on Wide Open School. So it was a great resource. And Jacqueline, I don't know if you have that open. I can just quickly, it's on the Common Sense site. I don't know if you are able to do it, but I can just show everybody how to access that. So it's back, if you go back, oh, there it is. Yeah, distance learning right now. And if you go, there it is on Wide Open School. Perfect. So I'll just show everybody what it looks like, because it really was a godsend for parents and educators over the last year. So as you can see, if you scroll down, we built daily plans in so that you could build a daily plan with your kids. When you go, let's see, go back up. And if we go to, if you just, yeah, there we go. If we go to, let's go to arts, go to arts. So if you click on this, we link, and you can go by, this is particular, we do it by grade bands, the same way we have our curriculum. And this, we can go to K through 2. Let's go to K through 2. Great. And so here you can see, so we linked to the best things around art that you can do with your kids, and it's all on here. We don't keep the actual content on our site, but we link out to the best apps, the best nonprofits, and everything on here has to be free. And these are things that you can do with your kids. It really was it is an amazing website, and a really important website over this past year for districts across the country that had a difficult time getting up and getting their virtual learning in place. So, so we tried to help them. So that's what Wide Open School is. All right, let's go back to our deck. Sorry, everyone, kind of going all over the place. Thank you. Okay. Let me move this. Let's see. Okay, so the next, let me go to the next, where are we? Okay, model positive habits. So you know this, but it's important to remember that, again, what you do is much more important than what you say. So all of our kids, certainly the youngest ones, all the way up through high school, learn by what they see us doing. So if you're bringing your phone to the dinner table, if you're doing that last email during dinner and saying, oh, I just need to get this done, but I'm going to put it away in 5 minutes. That's the message that you're sending, that the technology is more important than the dinner together. So just remember, whatever you're modeling is what your kids are probably going to be doing. It's important to remember. All right, let's go on to the next one. Thank you. Let's see. Here we go. So these are just some things to talk about with your kids when you're watching a show together. Why do you like the game show? So all of these things, to ask these critical thinking questions is so important to help your children develop the critical thinking skills that you want them to develop. So as you're watching something together, as you're watching a movie, as you're watching a TV show, think about these questions: the why, how, what, would the people in your life act like these characters in the game show? These are all great questions to think about always asking whenever you watch something together. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And then it's setting the limits. One thing that is important, and it's becoming less important today than it even was 2 years ago, and that is the background TV. So, many of us don't even use TVs anymore, right? Especially the younger parents. But if you do, and if you have a TV on in the background, even if you have a radio on in the background, we know through research that the ability for you to concentrate and commit and focus on your kids is going to be less. So turn off all background noise whenever you're having a conversation or you're playing with your kids. But like I said, turn off screens 1 hour always before bedtime, very important. Keep those bedtimes, meal times, parent times, try and keep them screen free for children and for parents. We know it's better for you if you can put your device away 1 hour before bed. It's been proven that you'll sleep better and you'll get to sleep quicker. Okay, let's go on. And this is about, instead of that handing your kid a phone, what else can we hand our kids? So thinking about taking some treats with you when you're out, taking some things to play with. It's hard to remember, but if you can have that bag ready as you're going out to dinner, or if you're going on a picnic, or wherever you're going to go out with your child, just so that you don't have to be tempted to hand them your phone or a device to keep them pacified. All right. And then the tips for transition, which we know is difficult for all kids, but particularly for the little ones. The next slide is, we like to say, use the when then strategy. So when we do this, then you're going to get this. So think about when then, instead of kind of dictating, put something away. The next slide we talk about is the timer, with that warning sign, which you probably already have figured out, when you need to get the kids off of a screen, to give them the 5 or 10 minute timer. And when that goes off, the screen goes down. As your kids get older, the timer really doesn't work as well, because certainly when they're playing a game, you need to wait till that part of the game is over for them to get off. But when they're young, you can use the timer, and it's a great way for them to even set it. And then as soon as they hear the beep, that's when it has to go off. And then the tech balance. So this is something that we developed, we came out with a few years ago, and it's a new part of what we do at Common Sense to help parents who are on the go and don't really want to come to our website for information. So we actually have a texting campaign, and it's called Tech Balance. And what we do is we will push out based on the age of your kids. You put all of this in when you sign up, and then we'll send you once a week tips and information based on the age of your kid. So that's 21555. If you text that, you can sign up, and then you'll receive these texts. Again, it's all free, but if you have a messaging, it goes by whatever plan you're on. So it is texting, but if you have unlimited texting, then it doesn't cost anything. And we have this both in English, and then the next slide, you'll see we have it in Spanish. I didn't mention, but we do have a Latinx platform, and it's part of Common Sense. I don't know if we probably don't need to go into that today, but all of our content is translated culturally into Spanish. And it stands alone on its own platform, the Latinx platform. All right, next one, some of the takeaways for today. So share your recollections with your family. Don't keep all this information to yourself. Use Common Sense as a resource. And then use the family media agreement just as a start to begin to talk about, what do you as a family want to do with technology, and how much do you want to use it in your home? And then the next slide. So I'm briefly just going to tell you a little bit about YouTube, and only because we have a few older parents of older kids on this. So we did some research on YouTube, and I'm just going to go through this very quickly. This is around not YouTube for kids, but content that kids are watching on YouTube. So the next slide, it shows, what did we measure? What types of videos are children watching? How much is being advertised to children? And what kind of negative and positive content do your children see on YouTube? Next slide. So what we found, which is important for you to know, that the kids who go to YouTube, 95% of the videos they watch have ads. And 72 to 87% of those ads were not intended for a family audience. So this is content that is specifically designed for kids to be looking at. And these are the ads that they're seeing. All right, let's go to the next slide. Importantly, the ads were not age appropriate. This ad actually was like a human biospecimen market banner during the Frozen 2 video. And next slide. So you should know that nearly half of the ads featured were promoting products for children to buy. And so this is this is young children. So again, this is not YouTube for kids. This is the YouTube platform. And then the next slide. This is, you can kind of see this yourself, more than 1 in 4 videos children under 8 watched are intended for a much older target audience. So this is fairly explicit and what we saw that kids were looking at. And then the next one, young children are primarily watching entertainment, not educational content. You probably knew that if they're going to YouTube. And then the next slide, and then we can kind of close this out. I don't want to go too much into YouTube, but children are most likely to see physical violence with 3 in 10 of the videos. So 30% contained at least mild physical violence on what kids were watching. So all of this is just to say that if your kids are going on YouTube and they're looking at children's content, you really need to monitor it because we know that it is not intended for children to watch by themselves. They're going to see things that you probably don't want them to watch. Okay, I'm going to pause it there because I have talked a lot. And I want to open it up just to see if anyone has any questions. Have I just told you way too much? Or are you muted? Is everyone muted?
I think people can unmute themselves. Carol,
Okay.
is that possible?
Yes, they can unmute themselves.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was a lot of information, and we could go on the YouTube, but I really don't want. I've been on an hour, so I kind of feel like I've talked so much and I have given so much information to parents that I hope I wasn't overwhelming. So I'd love if anyone has a specific question, please feel free to ask.